remain in your evacuation venues. And for areas where the tsunamis have not yet arrived, there is a likelihood that very large tsunamis may occur, so please be very careful.
The authorities say it's already clear that the earthquake has caused major damage across broad areas of northern Japan. And amid the rubble and the deepening sludge, the death toll continues rising. Police say between 200 and 300 bodies were found in the Sendai area alone, and many people are missing. Mike Aldridge, BBC News.
Well, earlier, our correspondent Roland Burke went to the city centre of Tokyo and described the scene following the tremors.
Now, that announcement you can hear is saying that Japan Railways is not going to be running any more services in Tokyo for the rest of the day. Now, you can see in this square many thousands of people. This is a big city, but it's not normally like this. These people came down from their offices when the earthquake hit, and they've been standing around here. Many of them are watching a giant TV screen. At the moment it's showing scenes from Tokyo, but it has been showing the tsunami that hit in the north of the country. The images of the water and the mud and the debris sweeping across fields and carrying houses and cars as it went. Now, here in Tokyo, even though it wasn't the epicentre, the quake was still very big. The ground rolled and rumbled and shook underfoot, and you could hear the great skyscrapers creaking and cracking as they swayed. Let's look at this, a huge line stretching down into the distance, people waiting to catch a bus. There are thousands of people, millions of people on the streets of Tokyo tonight. All trains have been suspended. The official advice, if you're safe, is to stay where you are. But after the shock of this afternoon's earthquake, many people just want to get home.
Roland Burke reporting from Tokyo city centre. Well, as we were saying, tsunami warnings have now been issued throughout the Pacific Basin. Alerts have been triggered in Australia, in Russia, Mexico, Hawaii and Peru, to name but a few. Let's speak to our correspondent Kate McGowan, who joins us now from the Indonesian capital, Jakarta. What's the latest from there, Kate?
Well, initially, people here were really worried. I mean, you only have to mention the word tsunami and people just think of what happened in 2004, that massive Asian tsunami which caused utter devastation in Aceh province here in Indonesia, the north. But as I said, the risk now is really focusing, in this region anyway, on these small islands where it's very difficult to get information from to find out how many people might be at risk, which islands have been hit and by how much. It's going to take a lot to find the information from that part of the world.
You talked about the contrast between the preparedness in Japan and the preparedness in Indonesia. Has a good deal, though, changed since 2004, even though, as you say, they are clearly still some way behind?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think on a very basic level, people know far more about what a tsunami is and what to do when a tsunami hits. And there are also tsunami warning systems in many parts of Indonesia. It just so happened that there weren't any in the northeast region, which is where the tsunamis hit today. But certainly in general, Indonesia is far more prepared. And this time, of course, what they did have, which they didn't have because it took so long for information to get to people in Aceh in 2004, this time people had several hours to notify other people, to move from the coasts, and many people took those warnings, took them seriously, went up to the mountains and waited in safety while these waves hit the coast. So I think people have definitely learned, and probably more importantly, most people are now far more aware of what to do if a tsunami happens.
Thank you very much, Kate. Kate McGowan there in Jakarta.
What we want to do now is bring you the very latest pictures coming to us from Japan, and these are of the ongoing rescue operation, working obviously through the night. The earthquake happened at 2:45 in the afternoon, Japanese time, and these are the very latest pictures coming to us. We understand that 900 rescue workers have been sent to northern Japan by the Prime Minister. Also 8 military planes were scrambled to survey the damage, and this is just the beginning of what will be a long rescue operation, help being offered, of course, as well from all over the world.
Japan, of course, 9 hours ahead of the UK, so it's just after midnight there now. As Roland Burke has been telling us at various points from Tokyo, of course, rescue work on an enormous scale continuing throughout the night. But of course, it's so difficult for the full scale of the devastation to be assessed until daylight tomorrow morning. But those are the latest rescue pictures coming in from northern Japan.
There has, of course, been reaction from throughout the world to what's been going on. The UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has been speaking about the earthquake in Japan, and let's listen what he had to say.
The world is shocked and saddened by the images coming from Japan this morning. On behalf of the United Nations, I want to express my deepest sympathies and heartfelt condolences to the Japanese people and government, and most especially those who lost family and friends in the earthquake and subsequent tsunami. Japan is one of the most generous and strongest benefactors, coming to the assistance of those in need the world over. In that spirit, the United Nations stands by the people of Japan, and we will do anything and everything we can at this very difficult time. We will be watching closely as the aftershocks are felt across the Pacific and Southeast Asia throughout the day. I sincerely hope that under the leadership of Prime Minister Kan Naoto and the full support and solidarity of the international community, Japanese people and government will be able to overcome this difficult time as soon as possible.
That was Ban Ki-moon speaking in New York a little earlier. Let's hear now from the Japanese Prime Minister, who's been reacting to the disaster.
To the people of Japan, you probably have already seen on television and heard over radio that at 14:46 today, an earthquake hit of 8.4 on the magnitude scale, centered around the shores offshore Sanriku. It was a very strong earthquake, and in the Tohoku region, mainly and over a wide area, damage has been inflicted. I offer my deepest sympathy to the people who have suffered the disaster. Regarding our nuclear power facilities, some of the nuclear power plants have stopped automatically, but so far, no radioactive material or radiation has been confirmed to have been leaked to the outside. There has been no information of those lines so far. And given this situation, an emergency disaster response headquarters has been set up with myself as the head. We will secure the safety of the people of Japan, and in order to minimize the damage, the government will make every effort possible. And we ask the people of Japan to continue to be cautious and vigilant and keep tuned in to the reports on the television and radio. And we ask the people of Japan to act calmly.
We're going to leave that, and we're going to show again, once again, those latest pictures coming to us. We understand that there are a number of major fires, and this is just one in Sendai, and you can see the damage that has been caused in some of these pictures. But ongoing fires, obviously absolutely no hope of even beginning to try and put them out.
Yes, we're talking about a scene here, as Louise says, near to Sendai City, specifically a place called Kesanuma City, which is in the prefecture where Sendai is centred. This particular city, we're told, this is according to the Reuters news agency who've been reporting the events of these fires, a population of 74,000, a mixture of residential, light industry and fishing areas as well, because of course it's on the coast. But we are seeing an extraordinary area, huge swathes that are currently on fire. And as you can see there on the screen, it's not necessarily this particular area where the petrochemical plant has seen an explosion and fires as well. But there have been so many spin-offs as a result of what's happened in Sendai, and these pictures just some of them. And clearly, as we were saying earlier on when we were watching the rescue workers going about their business, it's so difficult at this stage, it being late night, just past midnight in Japan, to assess exactly what's happening under the cover of darkness. But you can see the scale of these fires here in Tsunami City.
And Sendai, as Julian is saying, seems at this point to be one of the areas most badly affected by that tsunami. We understand from at least one of the news agencies saying that up to 300 bodies are found in Sendai City as that tsunami surged forwards, picking up cars, houses, buildings on fire as well, and surged forward inland, several miles inland. And the latest we're getting about the rescue operation on the news wires is that Japan's Defence Ministry ready to deploy 300 military planes and 40 vessels for post-quake and tsunami relief. That's according to their Defence Minister. I'm speaking to the Kyoto news agency in the last few moments or so. And already earlier in the day, they'd scrambled 8 military planes to survey the damage and were sending hundreds of rescue workers to northern Japan.
And just to reiterate one other line, of course, that we've been keeping an eye on, this is to do with Japan's nuclear power. Japan has told the UN nuclear watchdog that what they're calling a heightened state of alert has been declared at the Fukushima nuclear power plant, this after the quake, and these reports coming out of Vienna, which of course is where the watchdog is based. They also said it had been told that the plant had been shut down, but emphasised that no release of radiation had been detected. Japanese media reported separately that a leak was possible at the plant as water levels fell. But that was the news on that nuclear power element to this unfolding story.
And actually, here on BBC News, we will be speaking to a nuclear expert to talk about the possible issues surrounding those nuclear reactors. Right, let's remind you of the headlines. It's just coming up to 3:20. A massive earthquake has hit the northeast of Japan, triggering a devastating tsunami. The earthquake measured 8.9 in magnitude, one of the most powerful ever recorded.
A wall of water surged miles inland, engulfing towns and villages, washing away cars, sending ships crashing into the shore and destroying hundreds of buildings along the coast.
And there have been chaotic scenes as people take to the streets to escape collapsing buildings. Evacuations are still taking place. The United Nations say it has rescue teams standing by to offer emergency assistance. Also, international aid agencies are already working to send help to the earthquake zone in Japan. Louise Hubble is at the headquarters of Shelterbox in Helston in Cornwall. They specialise in sending emergency shelter and life-saving supplies for families around the world affected by disasters. As you can see, they are busy there already, aren't they, Louise?
Absolutely. I'm right here in the heart of the production line, as you can see, and each one of these green boxes can support 10 people in an area hit by disaster, just like Japan. A 10-man tent there going in. As you can see, things happening here all the time, and I'm told they can pack 1,000 boxes a day from this warehouse in Cornwall. Now, there are already shelter boxes in place in Australia and the Philippines, and those are just ready to be sent out to Japan. What we're seeing in boxes like this, these boxes will be sent out to Australia and the Philippines 10 years now. I mean, just describe to me the scale of what we're seeing out in Japan and how it compares.
Well, you know, we benchmark it with tsunami, of course, and with Haiti recently, but this is just huge. I mean, 10.9, it's amongst the top 10 earthquakes in the history of the world. A tsunami of 10 metres. You've seen the pictures on the TV unfolding, and sadly the full story will not start to unfold until tomorrow morning when day breaks. So it's a huge event for all of us.
And your team is out there, they're on their way. We can see the boxes being packed here. What will be the priorities on the ground?
Well, as ever, it will be to find the most needy people, work with the people that are assessing what's on the ground. But Shelterbox is really going to focus on the most needy people, the old, the infirm and the children. And we're working with the agencies that we know on the ground to bring that information together and act immediately. Our fleetness of foot puts us there right at the front end.
And night-time, obviously, in Japan at the moment, what challenges will that bring in the immediate effort to help?
Well, it'll add to the challenges, of course. It's dark, the infrastructure will be down, no roads, no water, no electricity.